Hi everyone, my name's Lily. I am the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind. It's been a little bit of time since you last saw me. I don't know if anyone saw a post that I had made on my YouTube last week, but there was no video because I had some unexpected travel delays at the end of March. So let's just get into kind of what I made. How was March? Let me just start off with, with what I was just saying, the travel delays. I was able to go on vacation in March to Madeira, but I had some unexpected travel delays coming home. My plane was grounded, then I was in the wrong city. Like everything just sort of made it impossible for me to be able to post a video last week. March was really hectic because I feel like, at least, I don't know about anyone else, but at least for me, I feel like going on vacation can be a very stressful process in the sense that, oh, I'm preparing to go on vacation, then I go on vacation and it's nice, but then I come back and I'm like, oh my God, I actually am really behind on some things. So I would say maybe like half or 2/3 of March were kind of stressful. And then 1/3 of it was vacation, I guess, if I had to sort of roughly put numbers on it. I what did I make in March? I made a bunch of hoods. So it started off that I've been making hoods, and you will have seen them in other wrap up videos. But my friend wanted me to make them in the blue and yellow for Ukraine. So this is the third one actually that I made with a leftover yarn, which was not asked for, but I made it anyway. So I've been making a bunch of hoods because I promised some to people, and so I've been making various designs and stuff. So this is another one that you can kind of see. They're wrapped up like that because I still need to do the cord and still need to seam them. So they're not exactly finished, but that is the last you'll see of them. And that's all I really like made. I didn't bring any of my supplies with me when I was home. Oh, I made a scarf for my mom, but I can't show it because my mom watches my YouTube videos. So in general, not a lot of productivity. I also don't expect a lot of things happening in April just because I am so behind on a lot of things. But anyway, that's what happened in March. That's what I made in March. If you want to see photos from my vacation or photos from March in general, I will link down below my photo dump wrap up for March. And yeah, I'm going to get into my favorite books. Let me just pick up my favorite books. Oh my God, this is so heavy. So here they are, all here. I'm entirely in shadow, but here they are. Yeah, it was a lot in March. So first of all, I read all of these books and I had so many favorites, but in terms of statistics, 30% of them featured people of color as main characters, and 23% of them featured queer characters as main characters. I'm actually really disappointed in myself. It's been a while since I've failed at both of the statistic challenges that I have. So I always try to read 50% and 33%. So I failed in both. That is disappointing. I still managed to read at least one book from an Indigenous author and at least one book from a Latina author as well. And I also read some books by trans authors for the Trans Rights Readathon, which happened at the end of March. I was not on my game this year. I know that in past years I've made content for them. I was not on, like, I was just not on top of it at the end of March. Just like the traveling and the delays just got to me. But I did read books for that. So in general, I don't understand why I failed so badly, but such is such. Let me just chat about my favorite books. Where we came out really strong. Actually, there are a bunch of adult books and only one YA book. So actually, let me just start off with the YA book. It is Meet Me at Blue Hour, which I've really enjoyed Sarah's writing in the past. But Meet Me at Blue Hour was such an insightful, introspective book about memory and loss and grief and love. It's comped to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And so basically, in the book, there's this teen, she works at her mom's clinic, and it's like a memory erasure slash recovery clinic. And she finds out her best friend, who they're estranged because they haven't talked for a really long time, she finds out when she randomly sees him back that he erased her from his memory and she doesn't know why. So that is the basic plot line. And I think what I really loved about that is it really talks about the burden of memory. Like if you erase someone from your mind, Is that fair? Is that a coping mechanism? Is it just running away? Like, why are people motivated to do this? And what does it mean for the remainder of the people around you, I guess, is a question that is really discussed in Meet Me at Blue Hour. And the other, let's see, 5 books I want to chat about are adult books. I read a lot of adult books this month. The first one is This Monster of Mine, which I adored. I'm not normally an ancient Rome inspired fantasy person, but This Monster of Mine was so good. Not only it was really good because it talks about kind of monstrosity. The society is incredibly corrupt. So basically, the main character was attempted to be unalived earlier in the book. And so she goes back to the city intent on figuring out who did it. And she goes back to the city completely kind of healed, but like not looking the same way she did before, and also it's been many years afterwards. And she comes back to the city in the guise or in the intent of being kind of like an intern to the legal system. She's an apprentice to one of these main judges. They're kind of judges and executioners in some sense. And so she comes back as that, and it's a book about corruption, and it's a book about justice, and it's a book about what happens when justice doesn't look the way you think it will, or doesn't look the way society wants it to. What does justice mean when the entire foundation is so corrupt? What would it take to have justice, enact justice? Like, it was just so good. It's also about revenge and retribution. It's the first in a series. I am just so excited for it to continue, and it kind of just took me by surprise. As I said, I'm not normally a Roman fantasy inspired fan, but this one was so fabulous, and I had to recommend it. The next one is Homegrown Magic. Homegrown Magic, I knew I was gonna love it. Okay, it's from 2 of my favorite authors. It's a co-authored project, and it was just the perfect balance between cozy and also, I guess, a look at corruption. Wow, March was the month of corruption. It looks at this kind of cozy plant magic on one hand, and kind of this small town vibe where the one of the characters comes back, and it has all of these things about the 2 characters' interactions in the past. And so in that sense, it's a little bit of kind of like, not second chance romance, but a little bit of kind of like, how have you changed as a person from when I first knew you to now. And so there's definitely that kind of cozy side. On the other side, there's certainly kind of a little bit more of a power ethics corruption kind of thing. Basically, one of the characters, their whole family kind of enacts magic from a saint or from like an ancestor basically who had magic. There's power and socioeconomic sort of conflicts within the 2 families, within the kind of the world, and that is the other side of Homegrown Magic. And I kind of loved watching these 2 sides merge together in Homegrown Magic. The next one is Dissolution, which is another book about memory, but I could not stop thinking about Dissolution. I read it actually on vacation, and every night I would be excited to go back to it to kind of figure out what's happening. There's a lot in Dissolution. I'm not actually sure if I can summarize it without being spoilery, but basically the main character has a husband who's suffering from sort of Alzheimer dementia thing, and she's narrating to us, the reader, her going and visiting him in the place where he is in sort of some sort of clinic kind of a home setting, and then someone comes and visits her and is like, this is not a home, you're never allowed to leave with him, we need to break him out. And that's kind of the catalyst for a lot of these things, but it's about memory, it's about the burden of memory, kind of like Meet Me at Blue Hour, the burden of memory. And it's about what we would do for the people we love and what we would do for the world, I guess. So in some ways, it has kind of these universal themes associated with it. Anyway, Dissolution is a book that I just kept going back to just because the world and the twists and the turns were so beautifully executed. And if anyone will, like, if when you read it, come back to this video and let me know what your thoughts are, because I need someone to chat about all these little details. The next one is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. This is in the world of the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. Love this series so much, and I knew that I was going to love this one, so I'm not surprised. But anyway, it is a story also about corruption. It is a story about corruption within the magical community, and basically the main character, brings her aunt back to life, but it kind of throws her in exile out of the community of witches, and also she basically loses her magical powers. And so it's about her kind of trying to figure out how to bring them back, and also the found family that she has created within the inn and everyone there, and another character who can kind of help her on this journey, but does she really want that anymore? The found family in this is just so good. I loved it so much. I love looking at all these people who've very much been brought there for a specific reason, even though you might not know it yet. And I think what I loved about it is it's talking about how to make a stand, the balance of power, what happens when what we want isn't what we want anymore, and how do we deal with that. And it deals with that in both characters. It's dual perspective. And then finally, we have Tideborn. Let me just unearth it from this stack. It was really hard for me to pick my favorites of this month because I did read so many good ones, but I had to kind of cut it off and be like, okay, I just need to pick these ones. If you're wondering, I obviously 5-star reads go in the ones that I mentioned, but also 4.5. But I make a very strict thing like 4.5 and up. I talk about, and there are just a lot of books that are 4 or 4.25, which I just don't end up being able to talk about. Otherwise, this video would be very long. But it is Tideborn. Fathom Folk was honestly one of my favorite books from 2024, and it made it into my favorite books of 2024. So I've been highly anticipating this sequel, and it was so good. I can't really talk too much about it because it is a sequel and I don't want to spoil anything. But what I can say is it talks a lot about grief and motherhood a lot in this book. And actually, that really resonated with me, even though I am not a mother, but it really resonated with me in the way that it talks about the sacrifices, forgiveness. Some characters, I can't say that actually. It talked about grief and sacrifice, and it talked about moving forward, and it talked about kind of as a society and as a person, how do you move forward? And I really loved both of those themes in Tideborn, so definitely makes it into one of my favorite reads for March. And that actually brings me to the end of my favorite reads for March. As I said, it was really hard actually to make a list this month, but let me know what some of your favorite books are that you read in March. I'm really excited for April, even though I can already tell it's going to be very stressed. I'm filming this on the same day that I need to post it, so that's great for me. I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a really great rest of your day, week, month, and reading year. Bye!